button. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up? Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast and get access to previous episodes on Facebook at Survive and Thrive 8791, the podcast. Don't forget to hit that follow button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to share their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, mental illness, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. Before I introduce our esteemed guest today, I'd like to highlight the upcoming Survive and Thrive 8791 Mental Health and Recovery Conference taking place in Madison, Wisconsin, our capital city. Join us on Wednesday and Thursday, October 29th and 30th at the Ho-Chunk Nation Madison branch office, located on the southeast side of Madison. This powerful two-day event will feature several speakers who will share their stories through mental health and addiction challenges and how they've learned to survive and thrive. You can register for the conference on our website. If you're a business or you're an advocate for mental health and recovery, we invite you to partner with us through sponsorship opportunities. Our website is surviveandthrive8791.com, and you can get all the information right there. This is where we get into our guest and episode intro. According to the internet, and the internet is always right. Correct, Ken?
Absolutely.
He says absolutely with a thick chuckle at the end. I don't need the internet, Ken. I don't need the World Wide Web. I don't need Alexa. I don't need Siri. I got my wife, Sarah, and she's always right.
Oh.
Not sure if that occurs in your house, but that's what happens here. According to an AI, artificial intelligence overview, the preliminary estimates and projections based on available data, the total number of suicide deaths or people taking their lives in the United States in 2024 is estimated to exceed 49,300, continuing a concerning upward trend. Today, I welcome Ken Penfield to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Raised in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, Ken attended Prairie du Chien High School and is a proud Blackhawk. After high school, Ken would take his talents to the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, where he earned a degree in teaching. With degree in hand, Ken would start his teaching career with stops in Viroqua, Baraboo, Mauston, and finally Waunakee, Wisconsin, where he retired in 2022. He didn't stay retired long, as he would start nursing school and presently works at the Madison Veterans Hospital. Today, I'm so glad you could join us. Ken Penfield, what is up?
The sky.
Oh, boy.
It's good to be here.
Oh, boy.
It's good to be here.
I forget you spent some time locked up down with the elementary kids at some point, especially in Waunakee, and you're going to probably have some good one-line and good zingers.
Oh, the bad dad jokes never end.
Yes. How's the summer been going? I mean, we're almost done with summer.
It's busy. It's busy. I'm working, and then I'm taking 16 credits at Herzing University to hopefully wrap up my bachelor's in nursing degree this December. Not a lot of big plans. My wife is teaching summer school. I'm taking credits. We've got two of the kids living at home yet. We're actually going to a country festival this weekend in Prairie du Chien. It's been a yearly gathering for the last, I want to say 11 years. And just to see friends and hang out. And we spent a lot of time on the farm down in Eastman, Wisconsin.
So do you know anything? There's a new bridge going in down there that I just saw some down by Prairie du Chien. Is that going to would that have affected you at all?
No, it's they've got the old bridge in Lansing is still being used. They've had to shut it down a couple times and then ferry people across the river with boats. Yeah, they're talking about tearing it down now, but there's a lot of people that don't want it torn down. They want to leave it just as kind of I don't want to say like a memorial or something like that, because they always hang lights on. They'll light it up, and they'll light it up for families that request it if they lost a child or parents, or in tribute or honor of someone. They actually, on Kay's birthday, a friend of ours pushed to have that lit for Kay on their birthday.
It sounds like it's a little bit of a masterpiece where, they honor people, light up the bridge, put signs out, and that's so cool to hear. Before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner. Ken, do you cook dinner?
Once in a while.
Once in a while. Okay, give me your favorite foods to cook. What genre are you in?
Oh,
are you in the mac and cheese genre?
No, not mac and cheese. I like to. I cook a lot. Like meatloaf is one of my specials. It's a mixture of farm-grown beef and venison.
Ooh, you had me at venison.
And I make a killer chili.
Ooh, yes, I'm a big chili guy.
Bean dip.
I've been a chili guy since 1969. With their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back with locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Waunakee, and Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. Most communities in Dane County, which encompasses the Madison, Wisconsin area. Can't get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. Little drum roll. Have you been to Buck and Honey's, Ken?
Yes, I have.
You have? Which one? Which one of the four?
The one in Waunakee. They have a really good menu. One of my favorites that I will have once in a while is a maple bacon bourbon old fashioned.
I think before we started this whole recording, I think I asked you to say that 5 times as fast as you can. You barely could get that out once. Sounds and smells good. I can sort of smell it, and I can feel the bourbon going down the back of the windpipe right now.
It's a sipper. It is not like your old school supper club old fashioned sweet.
On the podcast, our guests follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like. We're going to go through Ken's history, what happened to get Ken on the podcast. And in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened, get into what it's like now, and discuss Ken's 5 suggestions for thriving. Segment 1, what was it like before and what happened? You were raised in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. What was life like in Prairie at the intersection of Wisconsin and Mississippi rivers? Wow.
Yeah, not a lot of people, I guess, realize that. I guess it was your typical small town, southwest Wisconsin. A lot of good memories. Riding my bike to town, riding my bike to practice before I got my driver's license. We lived about 3 miles out of town in a rural setting. Our neighbors had a pig farm. When the wind blew a certain way, you definitely knew. But, I wouldn't change it for a thing. My brother was really big in high school rodeo, and I was following on his shirt tails for a while and learned how to calf rope, ride a horse, and things. And you can't take that away. My mom and dad gave us a great life. My dad had worked for the phone company 49 years.
Ooh.
And my mom was a homemaker when we were little, and then she worked at the Prairie du Chien Nursing Home Convalescent Center as activities director. My siblings, my brother Ted lives in Prairie now. He works at 3M. And my sister Pam is retired, and she worked for Lori Knapp Group Homes as a district supervisor, and great people. My parents were great people. We lost Dad 5 years ago and my mom last year. No complaints. I have a great childhood, a lot of memories. A lot of people in Prairie knew my parents and my grandparents, actually, Harvey's. My grandparents, Kenneth and Shorty, Harvey ran Harvey's Steakhouse.
Ooh.
And it was the big, it was like Arnold's on Happy Days. That's where everybody went. It was just, hearing stories from the older folks. My mom has a set of all of the big band directors' pictures and signatures. And because they were the only 24-hour place to eat, and there was a place called the Checkerboard Dance Club, and it's where the Big Bear is, right across from where Walmart and Piggly Wiggly are in Prairie now. And so they'd come and play the dances, and then they'd stop at Harvey's on their way out of town, either to Minneapolis or La Crosse. And it's just total small town.
You have an amazing wife of 32 years and some equally amazing children. Spin some yarns about them.
Wasn't even expecting to find my wife when I did. I had struggled in college and took some time off a couple times because my grades were bad. And when I went back for the final time, I was in a class on Saturday mornings. And
you can't see me, but my hand is up right now. So did I, but made it through.
And I had to go look at files on Saturday mornings to make education plans for disabled kids. We ran the therapy program on Saturday mornings, and my wife was in charge of the file room. And so I went in there, and we started talking. She goes, "Oh, you're in the class with my roommate." And there was only, I think 3 girls in our class. And I said, well, I was asking questions about this one named Bridget that had really long hair and stuff. And she goes, "Oh, that's my roommate." And I'm like, "Oh." So I started pumping Pam for answers about her roommate because I wanted to ask her roommate out. She'd never give me the time of day. And just, Pam and I kept talking and stuff. And then we realized we worked for the same company in La Crosse. And I asked her out. And
the rest is history.
The rest is history. We were only together 4 months before I proposed. We were engaged for nearly 2 years. And she was going in to be a teacher, and it gelled. God has a plan. And then we were blessed with our oldest child in 2001, and then triplets again in 2003.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that is, I had cancer in 97, so we had to bank. So we had some help. We got Kay, and then Pam's like, well, we got to have another one, so there's a sibling. And so we went in for our first ultrasound with the second pregnancy, and they said, oh, there's A and B. And then, there's something else in there, but it did no heartbeat. So, we're expecting twins. Next week, we went in for the second ultrasound, and the doctor goes, oh, there's A, B, and C. And I was like, you're effing kidding me. And I was just like, wow. And we were shocked. We've been very blessed and can never take anything away from that.
You attended Prairie du Chien High School in southwestern Wisconsin, just under 2 hours west of our great capital city. You mentioned you're a proud Blackhawk. What were some of your favorite memories from high school?
Oh, wow. The high school was a great time. I was in competitive sports up until freshman year, and then a vision issue. I had to stop all contact sports, so I joined a band and threw myself into that. And at the time, we had one of the juggernauts of the high school marching band with Tom Cook was our band director, and very, very ingenious gentleman. But just growing up and knowing everybody in my class. We were the first class, 86, to go on a senior trip out of state, so we went to Epcot.
Oh.
They called us the Epcotters. Yep, and so we raised money to go to Epcot Center. Our advisor, Mr. Ayler, arranged that, and so we took some coaches down to Florida and had a wonderful time. I learned that you don't climb a palm tree and then lose your balance and then try to hug it and grip it on the way down because the bark has slivers that go up.
Ooh.
Changed my voice octave for about a couple hours there, but...
After high school, you said you struggled with college early before righting the ship, and you took your talents just up the river to the University of Wisconsin La Crosse. What was the lure, and did you have any other suitors?
Yeah, at the time, I remember, I don't know what it's been a while since my kids had to do it, but when we were in, we had to, get the test scores and then apply at the schools that our scores weren't high enough and pay your $25. I think it's $100 now, but I applied at Madison, Platteville, Whitewater, and La Crosse. I chose La Crosse because my buddies went up there. They were in the tech school, and so I followed them up there, and it was still close to Prairie. I didn't want to move that far away from home yet. Yeah, that ended up being kind of a double-edged sword because I thought I could still party with them and spend a lot of times goofing around and not doing homework, and it kind of led me to a rough start.
Double
Like I
secret,
said earlier.
double secret probation.
Oh, it wasn't secret. It wasn't secret. I'll never forget. I got booted the first time because of grades. My dad had to take me up in just after December to get my stuff out of the dorm room and move back home. And I was expecting to get yelled at, and stuff. And he just said, Kenny, he goes, I'm disappointed. He goes, of all the kids, I thought you would have been the first to make it through the 4-year school. And that's all he said. And that stuck with me. I mean, that was like a kick. And so after that, I made sure that I got my head out and tried to right the ship after that.
Sometimes you need that little gut punch from the person that maybe you don't expect it from, your dad.
Yep.
But I think his words were well taken. So after you would graduate with a teaching degree, and you would start your teaching career at some schools in South Central Wisconsin, like I mentioned earlier, that I'm completely familiar with, Viroqua, Baraboo, Mauston, before landing at Wanakee. And you retire in 2022 after 28 years of teaching and coaching. What were some special moments in the classroom for you?
There are so many. You have, and you were a teacher for many, many years, and so you always know that there's so many memories, and then there's those special ones that click. I really couldn't pinpoint one or two, but the couple that like pop into my head. One, my claim to fame is I know 2 students, former students that have won an Oscar.
Really?
An actual Oscar in Hollywood.
Really?
First one being a kid named Andrew Napier, and he won a short Oscar that was for a short. I can't remember the name of it. It's dealing with suicide and kind of a theme there. I was actually texting back and forth with him when he was at the ceremony, and they had the teddy bear from Ted on stage.
Wow.
And I texted him. I said, "Is that real?" And he goes, "No, it's all CGI." and stuff. And so then we were talking, and then he's like, "Hey, I got to go." Well, and then they were doing the award thing, and he got it. And the little girl that was in their short video, the actress, she actually did the voice of Dora the Explorer in the cartoon.
Oh, no kidding.
So, yeah, Andrew, they went to a after Oscar party, and him and the people that worked on the show with him, they didn't have any money. They were starving, living in Los Angeles. And they said, "Well, where's your invite?" And the little girl stood up out of the sunroof, and she goes, because they had rented a limo together, they pooled their money. And she lifted up the Oscar out of the sunroof, and she goes, "Here's our invite." And they let him in. And he got his picture taken with Daniel Radcliffe from Harry Potter, Steven Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino. He actually was in the movie Inglourious Bastards. He was watching how to film. He moved from UW-Madison out to California to learn how to direct. And he met Tarantino, and Tarantino's like, "Hey, you look like a Nazi. Go to wardrobe." And he blonde hair, blue eyes, and he's got a credit in the movie Inglourious Bastards. So
he gets 23 cents every month, and every time that's out.
Yeah. And then the second one is Derek Endress from Wanakee. He was in my very first year teaching in Wanakee. So I remember seeing that, and the wonders of social media. He and I have connected. But yeah, there's so many wonderful stories from years of teaching. One of the ones that really kind of hit home, we'll talk a little more about it once we get into my story, but the night everything happened, one of my former students was one of the first to respond to our situation. Funny story about coming to Wanakee. So we had an awesome principal in Mauston, Mike Howard.
Oh, yeah.
His
I know
dad
Mike.
his dad was a coach for Prairie du Chien and principal. I spent a lot of time with John my senior year. Mm-hmm. And when I came down to Wanakee, because Mike had left and went to Jefferson. They were starting to make cuts in Mauston, and I'm like, well, the hell with it. If they're going to start doing stuff like that to a guy like Mike, then we're out of here. So I applied for a job in Wanakee and never told my wife. And I got the interview, and I called her and I said, "Hey, just a heads up, I got an interview next week in Wanakee." And she goes, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, I got an interview in Wanakee. I applied for it." She goes, "What? Wait a second, what?" And because we had a Victorian house we bought up there, 2,800 square foot. We had the kids, we had our friends, and I'm like, Pam. And so I then explained it to her, and I said, hey, here's the deal. I said, look at the opportunities our kids will have down there. And I said, if I get cancer again and I don't make it, what are we going to do? We don't have relatives. Your family's in Wanakee. I said, so we need to kind of look at this. And I said, let's not, think about it and until let's see if I get the job. Well, then I got the job. Things are kind of touch and go with her and I for about 3 weeks. She was pretty miffed that I did not tell her that I applied. So
you threw a couple of curveballs at her.
Oh God, and she hasn't killed me yet, so I'm lucky. But in the long run, my mom was always a firm believer. God's got a plan, and He's not going to put you someplace unless He intends you to be there. So we did it, and we moved down here, and we raised our kids here, and it's been a fantastic ride.
That's some great advice for just about anything. That the good Lord has a plan, and just follow along, and He's going to put you in the right place. After you retired, and you didn't stay retired for very long, tell us what you're doing now. I mean, you kind of told us a little bit earlier, but paint the picture there.
It was probably 2021. I could kind of feel the wheels coming off the bus teaching. I'm not wired for the new behaviors that were coming down the road and things. And COVID took a lot out of me teaching. It was tough. And so I started looking at, what do I want to do? When my dad was dying in hospice, the folks gave him so much respect and dignity when the nursing staff, and I was like, hey, maybe I should look at healthcare. And so Gabby, our daughter, wanted to be trained as a CNA. And I'm like, hey, that'd be an okay summer gig. So we got certified together as CNAs and started working healthcare in a long-term facility. And I said, hey, this is kind of what I want to do. So I retired and started working healthcare. I worked at UW Hospital for a year. And when I hit 55 and started drawing my pension, I couldn't stay there because they've got there's a clause and stuff. So I left there and got hired at the VA, William S. Middleton Veterans Hospital, but all the old farts call it the Veterans Hospital, Madison Veterans Hospital. And I've been there for 2.5 years now, and I love it. I'm training, learn a lot of new skills, and I'm going to school to be a nurse. I found a program at Herzing that would take a lot of my credits from my undergraduate and my master's degree, and I started doing the nursing thing, and I love it. My wife thinks I'm a freak because literally when the triplets were little, if they had like those seedy diapers that smell like toxic waste and things, I would gag. I literally would gag. I'd have to put a peppermint disc in my mouth and literally a clothespin on my nose. And now I'm getting baptized with body fluids all the time, and nothing phases me. So she's just like, what happened to you? But I love the healthcare system, and I really enjoy what I'm learning because the vets, a lot of people don't realize it, but once we lose the veterans, that's part of our history that you can't get the stories and the experiences back.
You're enjoying your new job, as you just mentioned, and however, your child, Kay, was struggling with anxiety and depression, and this is your oldest of your 4 children. What was happening there?
We, I guess in retrospect, hindsight is always 20/20, and there were some like little, I guess, small blips on our radar when Kay, born as Caleb Kenneth, went in 2001, just sometimes didn't like being put on spot, like high pressure situations would freeze. And we didn't think anything of it, growing up. And then junior year, started being more withdrawn. Kay did. In the last year and a half, Caleb let us know that they preferred to be called Kay, and let us know that they were non-binary, so they didn't feel comfortable with their assigned biological gender. And came out that they were gay, and Pam and I were both totally okay with that. But it started putting some of the puzzle pieces together from what started as a junior in high school. I believe it was 2017. Started becoming more withdrawn, tried ODing, And so we got some help with that. No, that was in the senior year. Junior year was just more withdrawn, and then would take off a couple times, just disappearing. We didn't know where they were. Came home, but then senior year they tried ODing, and so we went to the hospital and had Kay admitted to Rogers Memorial Hospital. It's a hospital for adolescents that are under 18.
Inpatient.
We got some. What's that?
Inpatient.
Yep, it was inpatient. It was an inpatient stay. They were there, and that was one of the hardest things as a parent, to take your child and let someone else take care of them. We had to sign off our parental, I guess, sign off that we would let them take care of them. And I'll never forget that night. I broke down in Milwaukee. They allowed us to drive Kay there. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. What happened, or I should have done differently as a parent. And Kay gave me a hug and just said, there's nothing you did, Dad. This is just the way I'm wired. That hit, and seemed better. Came home, and it was right before Christmas. Things were going well for a little bit, and then in February had to be hospitalized again for another attempt. The medications didn't seem to be working as well as we had hoped. The counseling was helping a little bit. Unfortunately, the way the system is, once Kay turned 18, his counselor that we had through SSM was no longer able to work with them because she only worked with kids under 18.
Mm-hmm.
And so then by then, Kay was like, well, I really don't need this anymore. Wouldn't take the meds anymore. And they can make that decision. Actually, I think it's 11 or 12 is when a child can actually tell their parents they no longer want to take medication. And they have to honor that, which is something I didn't know. So we kind of dealt with it that way. And the hospital did give us some advice. They said, well, here are questions to ask. And these are kind of questions that you can ask your child to, do you have a plan? How are you today? And type sort of thing, and just look for, I guess, clues or signals. Things seem to be going all right. Kay started college at UW-Madison towards social studies, and then changed to philosophy. Started, I guess, picking some inappropriate ways to cope. They were using alcohol and some other substances to cope and medicate to deal with their feelings. And then, fast forward to a year and a half, 2 years ago when Kay came out to us. And then I was like, oh, I get it. I mean, there's been this inner conflict to go along with the anxiety and depression that he was diagnosed with as a senior. We just reiterated, that doesn't define you as our child. You're a human, and we love you no matter what. It came down to the fact that Kay just had all these inner conflicts on how they should be according to society's view. You were born a male, you need to be a male, you need to act like a male, you need to look like a male. And that was tied up, kind of the direction things were going. Was hospitalized one night for being really, really drunk at their apartment, and the roommates called to have Kay taken to detox. So Pam and I were on an anniversary trip to Las Vegas at the time, so we're halfway across the country, and we're like, what the heck are we, how do we get home, and things. And luckily we have a network of friends here that were able to step in. Auntie Kim, Kay's godmother, drove down from Minneapolis and helped with the transition to get Kay back home, and we had Kay move back home and just said, hey, we need to help you through this. We had a good year and a half with Kay home, and we thought things were going better, but there were still signs that Kay was struggling, would go on binges. We started becoming a dry home. Had tried to keep all of our alcohol locked up or just not around home because Kay would cope and imbibe, drink. I had clearly had a drinking problem, but we were trying to navigate that.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. That initial point of when you took Kay to Rogers, that you, and people need to hear this, I think sometimes in the recovery standpoint of you can't help. Sometimes parents and relatives and siblings can't offer any advice. You can be a cheerleader from the sideline and support, but in some cases, in a lot of cases, people need professional help. And that might mean going into an outpatient facility where you go in and check in for the day and then you get to go home. And in this case, you took Kay to an inpatient facility where they can be monitored and talked to, and all of that professional help that they so need to navigate all of this. And for you to be here today, and we talked about this before, is that this is so courageous of you to be able to talk about this so that another family doesn't have to go through something what you have, which we're going to talk about here in segment 2. And so that's why I'm really glad that you're here today. Because our listeners want to hear the rest of your story, I need to talk about our sponsor one more time. Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning, with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. People ask, why Buck and Honey's? Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. On January 20th, 2025, your family's life was torn apart, and you're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Your oldest child, Kay, would suffer a self-inflicted gunshot wound that Kay wouldn't recover from, something no family should have to go through. Ken will talk about life after that day and what he's doing now so that this doesn't happen to anyone else. Please stay tuned. Don't change that channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365 and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. The podcast is where we feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. Ken Penfield is here today to share his story and how he has navigated life after his child, Kay, took their life. He will share how he has survived and thrived since then. On January 20th, 2025, your child, Kay, would suffer a self-inflicted gunshot wound. You and your daughter would hold Kay until the paramedics would arrive. Kay would pass away 4 days later. What do you recall about the days and weeks kind of leading up to and following and the day of? I'll let you talk on that.
I'll never forget that day. It was tough. I'm not gonna, and it still is. I came home from work that day and was doing homework. I found an empty bottle of Jim Beam honey that was here. It was in a desk drawer because we, like I said, we had to hide the alcohol and things here. And I called up to Kay and I just said, hey, what's going on? And Kay had mentioned, I guess it started in October. prior, October 24. Kay had struggled with jobs and things, keeping a job, because when they felt under pressure type sort of things, just wasn't able to cope with the anxiety, and then would become depressed, after that, because, hey, all of my classmates have graduated, they have these jobs, and I'm really struggling to keep it together. I mean, those are things that Kay had shared with us. Mm-hmm. And because they were never graduated, and so it was on a binge, and we just, we had known and stuff. And Kay had been told us in October he left a job like just during that day, and he came home and he broke down. They broke down and said, "I need help, Dad. I need help. Can you help me get back on the meds? And I need to see a counselor because I can't do this." We reiterated with Kay that, we're here to support you, we love you. We got the medication started again, and they seem to be helping. And that was October 24. So Kay had tried reaching out to counselors and didn't want virtual. Kay needed to see somebody in person and have that connection, and it would be 3 months before Kay would be able to see someone. So we were kind of playing the waiting game. Then in January, like I said, fast forward to January 20th, Kay was on a binge. And I had asked what's going on. I said, we need to help you through this. I said, this is getting kind of old. I said, we can't have alcohol in the house and things. We're trying to help you, but we need to get you in to see somebody sooner than, and if it has to be a virtual, then we'll do that. And then that's when Kay had shared with us that they hadn't been taking their meds for, I can't remember if it was a month, 2 months, because the insurance refused to refill it because insurance was denying it since Kay hadn't had a physical in so long. And so we said, hey, we'll get it set up. We'll talk to our doctor. We'll go to the wellness clinic, get the physical done, get the medication. And then, Pam said, I'll help you set up a virtual counselor because we need to get you in to see somebody because, you can't continue to cope in this manner. It's not healthy. Again, I gave Kay a hug and I said, I love you. This doesn't matter. I said, you're still our child. We love you. We just want to help. And one of the last things that Kay said to me is, what kind of life is a queer like me going to have for the next 3 years? I don't want it to seem political or anything like that, but that was Inauguration Day. And the thing that resonated with Kay that day was that, and this is just me reflecting on the happenings of that day, and that was the day that leadership said that there are only two genders, male and female. And that was stuck with Kay. And those are the last words, some of the last words Kay said to us. Kay went upstairs, we had our discussion, decided, said, hey, this is what we're going to do tomorrow. Mom will stay home from work and help. And we thought that then things were good because usually when Kay would have one of the binges and come down and talk with us, they'd go up and just sleep it off. I was doing homework and where I'm sitting right now, and we heard a gunshot. I knew exactly what it was right away. Pam didn't know. Pam thought he had fallen down. And I ran upstairs and I jimmied the bedroom door open and found Kay. I never, ever thought I would ever experience anything like that. I still have images in my head that I'm trying to get out. Some nights I'll wake up in the middle of the night hearing a gunshot in my sleep, smelling the gunpowder, seeing what I saw. And I screamed down to Pam. I said, you need to call 911. Kay shot themselves. Gabby came in. Her bedroom's upstairs. She came in and she goes, oh. And so she was helping me. I said, we need call 911 now. And Gabby and I held Kay until the team got here. Just the sounds and things that it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. I was holding Kay in my arms. Gabby was holding, and I never forget the look. She said, "Dad, I'm scared." And I just cried, and I said, "So am I." And I knew how law enforcement would be, so I took the gun apart, threw it in the hallway, and the police came first. I didn't know this, but the police will not let any other personnel come to a home where there's a gun involved until they deem the scene is safe. And so they were doing that. The ambulance was waiting down the street. I still get kind of triggered every time I hear an ambulance or police siren. I can still see that or feel that. But the first group that got here, some of the firefighters, we have a wonderful police force here, firefighters, first responders, everyone. I cannot thank them enough. But one of my former students was one of the first to respond. And just the way it was, and he just looked, just the look he gave me is like, "I wish I could do something to help you." It seemed like it took forever for them to stabilize Kay so that they could take him. And so they took Kay to UW Hospital, because that's the nearest trauma center that they were going to take to. So they took right to UW. And so Pam and I and Connor made our way in. Gabby's boyfriend took Gabby in. We met at UW, and that's where they told us in the ER that Kay was still alive, but based on the injury and where it was located in their head, there was no coming back. There was no coming back the way we knew. And part of me was really relieved that Kay was still alive in the physical sense so we could say our goodbyes. But the other part of me was completely devastated because Kay would never be whole again. And our life was never going to be the same. They found out through some research that Kay had signed up to be an organ donor. Mm-hmm. That was their wish. And so they moved Kay to the TLC at the UW. I got to look up the definition of that. I can't. I walk past it every day at the VA.
It's the Trauma and Life Support Center.
Thank you. Trauma and Life Support. Thank you. They do wonderful work there. We're going to nominate all of their staff for Daisy Awards, which is an award they give to healthcare workers that go above and beyond. They were fantastic. During those days, they counseled us on what was going on, how things were going to happen. They stabilized Kay, and we prepared for the 24th. So once they were able to keep Kay stable, they were able to start procuring possible organ matches for the things that Kay was able to donate. So the target date for the organ harvesting was the 24th of January, that Friday. What they did is they had the organs lined up, and they do an honor walk. They have people from the hospital can attend. We can invite family, friends, and they all line up and honor the family and the organ donor as they walk down the hall to the harvesting area, which is an OR. I've got a recording of it that my boss took. A lot of my colleagues from UW were there. My colleagues from the VA are there because the VA is hooked right to the UW. So our ground floor at the VA is the UW third floor. And every time I take somebody to dialysis, I walk right past the TLC. It's kind of a trigger. It was the first time I had to transport. Through Kay's donations, that's one silver lining with this. Kay was able to donate lungs, liver, kidneys. Some went to Iowa City. Some organs went to Northwestern, Chicago, Madison. They were able to save many lives with the donations. They let us take our dogs in. So they understood, because the dogs were Kay's like comfort animals last year and a half, 2 years. And we wanted to make sure the dogs knew closure, because dogs know. With Pam and I were able to hold Kay when they passed. So they go in, and what they do is they unhook all life-preserving machines, and then it's a countdown, because the organ donation is based on how a person passes, whether it's with the brain or the heart. And that's part of how they decide where the organs can go and how they define it. And so we both held on to Kay while they passed. Yeah, we just kept saying, it's okay, you can go now, you're not hurting anymore. And then they passed.
How are you coping during these times afterward, shortly thereafter, the day or week or months?
I'm kind of a little thick-headed, I guess. Right away, I decided the next day that, I ended up with COVID, so that I wasn't feeling good that next night. And I was in, and they made me go get checked, and here I turned out, I had COVID. So I had to kind of shelter a little bit, and they allowed me to go into the TLC, but I could go straight there, wear a mask, and leave. I couldn't go into the family lounging area or anything like that. So they did have a protocol set there, but I decided it was going to be just being a dumb shit. I thought it would be therapeutic to just throw myself into cleaning up Kay's room. My brother had come down to stay with me at the time and just check in with us to support, and he was pissed. He's like, Kenny, get the F out of here. You don't need to see this. You were already here last night and things. So he took care of it and stuff. And we should have just hired a company. I know there's companies out there, but for some odd reason I thought, okay, this is going to help me find closure. And it didn't. It created more, I guess, trauma, which, if I can even say that. But I was numb for about a week and a half. Just went through the stages of grief, trying to bargain, in denial. And I started coping in a pretty bad way. I started hitting alcohol pretty bad. It started out as once a week, and then it got to the point where I would do it 2 nights a week. And then it got to be 3 or more nights a week. And I started to see a change in me, and I could see the look on my family's faces. I didn't want to do that to my marriage. I didn't want them to lose another family member. And I could just see that was the road I was traveling, and I couldn't do that. So I just said, hey, I got to get this taken care of. And I started seeing a counselor. And the person was fantastic on helping me live through the trauma. A lot of people will say PTSD or whatever, but it's not that. I mean, I've seen that at the VA, and this, I wouldn't classify this as that, but my counselor said, you've experienced trauma, and what you saw, what you felt, what you experienced, in addition to the loss. And so I started making some changes with how I cope. My siblings, my sister and my brother, have both been very integral in helping me. I was struggling when my mom died last September, and then this happened. I was kind of on a rough cycle, but they've been a big help. My family, my wife, the triplets have been fantastic. The Wanakee School District made meals for Pam and I and the family. They started a food train and like gift cards, donations. I can't say enough about our school family, and as a staff member, they're fantastic. But the community of Wanakee as a whole, neighbors, people that we didn't know knew us, have reached out and just said, hey, we're thinking about you. That has helped a lot. The biggest, I guess, 2 people that have really, I should say, really helped is 2 of the pastors at work. Kali was a pastor that was assigned to our floor, and she's fantastic. I wanted Kay to meet her a lot because she herself is gay. She's got a partner. And I just wanted her to make that connection with Kay so that Kay didn't feel isolated, like he had been sharing with us with the anxiety, depression, and then his inner turmoil with his orientation and gender. She never was able to meet Kay, and I felt bad, but she came and visited the next day, and I introduced her to Kay and the TLC. But the other individual is a Marine. Once a Marine, always a Marine. But is a pastor at the VA. Came to do the blessing of the hands, and I had just walked somebody past the dialysis unit that morning. I walked past the TLC, and it just triggered me. It just triggered me that day. I saw. I was like, oh my God, that's where Kay was when they passed and things. And when Raul, the pastor, came up to do the blessing of the hands, I said, you got a couple minutes. And he stayed with me after, and I broke down, just broke down. And he shared some really cool perspective. He goes, I lost a child, not in the manner you did, but I lost a child. And he goes, the body dies, but the spirit lives on. Celebrate. I celebrate with my daughter when I go someplace or when we have an occasion. I celebrate and I talk to my daughter. You should try that with Kay. So I started doing that. So when we celebrate things, and I was on the farm mowing lawn, and I said, geez, I was doing something on the farm, and I said, God, Kay, I wish you were here so I could talk to you. Wish you were here. And I saw a cardinal. I'd never seen a cardinal, a red one, just me seeing a red cardinal, not when my dad died, not when my mom died, but I saw a cardinal come out, and it came out. It was down one of the trails. It came out, it would look, and then hide behind the grass, and then came out again. So I snuck forward, and I was like, gosh, that's just like Kay. Wanted to be there, but didn't want to be noticed. Wanted to be there, but didn't want to be noticed. And that made me feel good in a moment of despair, of sadness. That has really helped. I do a lot of praying. When I have our son Brady is really a strong, devout Catholic, and he said, Dad, you need to start praying. He goes, that'll help you through this. So when I'm having those nights where I can't sleep, where I may hear a gunshot, or I may smell the gunpowder, or see the blood and things, I pray. I'm like, God, help me through this.
You've talked about a couple of really good things that I kind of want to go back to a little bit, just because, people listening to the podcast are wondering, what does a person do when this kind of thing happens? And I'm glad you touched on the going and resorting to alcohol, that being an unhealthy coping skill. You've decided to find some healthy coping skills of talking about it, seeing a therapist, seeing a counselor. And I think really the big thing was starting to talk about it and talking to your Marine pastor that had the same or similar situation, in that he lost a child in a different way, but nobody understands that until you start telling your story. And then all of a sudden people come out of the woodwork and they start sharing, I had the same thing happen, or I lost a child and here's what I did. And you think that you're the only one, and you're not. And I think when people open up their lives to others and let other people in, that's when the healing process starts. I'm going to go now fast forward here, way back in November of last year. I had a parent on the podcast that had lost their son as well to a fentanyl poisoning. And that parent started advocating and bringing awareness to her situation and his situation. And you're doing kind of the same thing now, is that you want to try to do some things that are going to help a situation, or help a child or someone get the diagnosis they need. Tell us about that.
My daughter was in the dorms, at the same dorms in Milwaukee when that happened. So, loss is loss. And I've had classmates that have lost children to cancer. And anybody that reaches out can tell you the one common theme is it's a hole that'll never be filled again.
You also mentioned something about a screener of sorts, a questionnaire that can put some people at least give them why they're feeling a certain way or what they need to do based upon that. You want to talk about the screener?
Sure. In one of my classes, it was called healthcare policy and nursing. And I came up with a screener for individuals that are showing signs of anxiety and depression. But it's more, I guess, and it can be tweaked for that, for any like school counselor or healthcare or any situation or a parent. But it's also, I did the research on substance abuse and suicide or self-harm with the LGBTQ plus and non-binary populations. And so this screener is designed to be used with an individual that may be struggling with their gender identity or their sexual orientation identity. And this will help screen out certain things, and then, that'll be shared with a care team. And we always, with the stipulation I've put on it, is everything that is said with that, either a school-age child, a teenager, or young adult, everything is confidential and will only be shared with the care team. Just so that individual knows, okay, I'm not alone. I've got somebody that I can talk to and trust. Because the biggest thing with what I found in the studies is the biggest thing with someone that is questioning their gender or their sexual orientation is they feel isolated and alone. And then compound that if they have anxiety and depression on top of it or alongside of it. That's a lot for someone's psyche to handle. So this screener will allow us to get that person help and present options. Ultimately, it is on that individual to accept the help. You can't force someone to seek help, but at least my mission is to make sure that they know that there's help. I call it quality care for all. And so this is meant to help that individual, just feel that they have someone they can trust. I'm doing a presentation on Tuesday, August 5th on that. The big thing is to help these individuals feel less isolated, less alone, and just help them navigate. If we don't have the answers, we can help them find the answers. It's also focusing on parents or families who may have a child that they suspect, or have a child that they're raising that may be gay, maybe trans, maybe lesbian, non-binary, gender questioning, because it's a new phenomena that not a lot of people know about. There are great resources in the Madison area that I wish we would have known about in hindsight, that we could have steered Kay toward. But just in doing the research, I found them. I will forever regret that I didn't find them sooner.
There's a silver lining in just about anything, and when bad things happen to good people, good things end up coming their way. And I think this is a situation where a lot of good is going to come out of something that a tragedy that occurred to your family. There's going to be a lot of good that will come out of the research you're doing, the help you've gotten, and the experience you had, and how you're going to be able to help others is tremendous. This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, and pencils and jot some things down. Here are Ken Penfield's 5 suggestions that have allowed him to survive. And I put this, normally I say have allowed the guest to survive and thrive. And I think, Ken, you are a work in progress, and you're working on the thriving part. But like I said, for you to be able to navigate the last 7 months it's awe-inspiring what you've had to go through, and now you're turning a tragedy into triumph. So here's what you shared with me, and I'm going to toss these in softball style underhand. Can you hit a softball, Ken?
Sure.
I love it.
I'll use my good eye.
You'll use your good eye. All right. I'm going to toss these in underhand softball style. I'm going to have you hit this in about 60 seconds or less. Okay. Number 1, lean on others. Go ahead and hit that.
That can be family members, coworkers, anyone in the community. Just know that you're not alone, and it's not bad to ask for help, whether that be like a friend, a physician, or a counselor. I look forward to meeting with my counselor every day or every session because it helps me navigate. The biggest thing for me was to just give up some of my, I guess, individual trying to handle it on my own and just lean on others to help, because you can't walk alone.
Great advice. Number 2, pray or at least reflect on what is good around you. Go ahead and hit that.
It's easy to focus on the negative, the what if, why didn't I? And that just keeps you, I guess, grounded. And so what I do is I pray. I know not everyone is a prayer, but reflect on the good things that are around you. My daughter had me start looking at sunrises and sunsets. And, it's the beginning of the day and it's the ending of the day, and tomorrow is a new day. So I always try to stay positive even when I'm down.
Good advice. Number 3, keep the good memories close. Some days that is all you have to keep the bad day at bay. Go ahead and hit that.
I try to, Pam is wonderful, has scrapbooks with all the kids' pictures and stuff growing up. So I'll look through those and find a picture, or I'll look at my phone and find a picture and just remember that day. And instead of letting it be sad, I remember that day. Hey, that was a cool day. That was an experience that I had with Kay, or I had with Kay and the other kids. And just remember the good times, not that one bad time at the end. That shouldn't define Kay's entire existence or our family's existence. Keep the good memories close and focus on those.
Love it. Number 4, give yourself a grace. Go ahead and hit that.
Oh, shit. This is the one I struggle with. Even though I'm understanding it and trying to rationalize it, this is the one that I really struggle with, because I think as a dad, I should have been able to protect my child. And it's really tough. My counselor said, you tried. And a lot of things you've shared, this was probably, nothing you could have prevented. And I need to give myself grace and say, hey, I tried. And now I can turn this bad experience into something good and help others.
That is well said. And number 5, you talked about this in the little cardinal story. Talk to your lost loved one. The body is gone, but the spirit lives on. Share and celebrate the new experiences. Go ahead and hit that.
Oh, I do this every day. I started taking the dogs for rides. Oh, okay, I got to watch. I'm not supposed to say the word because one of them is pretty casual, but our other one, Bogey's casual, Mocha's a little psycho. And she even hears the word, or if we spell it out, she's gone towards the door. So, but I started taking them for an RIDE, and we travel. And I got a playlist of K's that I play, and we listen to the music, and we just drive. If we see something cool, I'll say, hey, look at that. Kay would have enjoyed that. Or if we make a meal that's vegan that Kay would have enjoyed, we share those things, share the experiences. Pam and I are going to go see Michigan. A lot of our colleagues in the funeral home allowed people to donate trees. And so a lot of the trees that people purchased were planted in Michigan. So Pam and I are going to go on a road trip and see the trees for Kay. And so we're going to share that experience with Kay. And that's the biggest thing, is share the experiences with the loved one, because like Raul told me, he goes, the body is gone, but the spirit is going to live on and hears you. And I'm going to carry that forward until my time is done and we can see each other in the afterlife.
When you were talking about the DOGs, taking the RIDE, I had a smile on my face. I'm looking at myself in the on the camera here, on the computer here, and I had a smile on my face that you made my day right there. That was kind of cool. What an episode. I'm honored that you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your story and what you have experienced in the last 6 months is unbelievable, and at the same time inspiring what you had to go through. Your story reminds us all to have coping skills or mental health tools in the toolbox when a person is met with an unspeakable challenge when a family loses a loved one. But despite that, you have survived and are working on the thriving part, Ken, and I'm cheering for you. I will be in your corner. You ask me anything that I think I can offer, I can deliver, giving you this platform today. I hope it plays a role in your recovery process and catapults you into that next level of trying to feel better each day, and hopefully this kind of keeps it pushing forward. Our call to action, Ken Penfield just shared an incredible story that no family should have to go through. He is trying to bring a light to someone out there who is going through what his family is going through. His message is going to help someone somewhere. Here are Ken's 5 suggestions that have allowed him to survive and work on the thrive part. Number 1, lean on others. Number 2, pray or at least reflect on what is good around you. Number 3, keep the good memories close. Some days that is all you have to keep the bad day at bay. Number 4, give yourself grace. Number 5, talk to your lost loved one. The body is gone, but the spirit lives on. Share and celebrate the new experiences. Final thoughts as we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Are there any final thoughts, Ken Penfield?
Well, Tim, all I got to say is thank you much for allowing me to spend this time with you and our talks coming up to this. And I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate your help. And this was therapeutic. Some parts are like taking a Band-Aid off and picking at the scab, but it's therapeutic, and it is helping. And I hope what you're doing and your mission is helping others as well.
Well, I appreciate that. And when this all happened, I was a innocent bystander on the sideline watching on Facebook, and you posted that, and it was crushing because I remember Caleb, and I remember the triplets and have had them in class, and then knowing you have that vibe, you've got that I care vibe about anything and everyone. And I think by you coming on and sharing your story today and doing some of the things you're doing in your nursing program and trying to help people navigate and get the answers they need to, hopefully is going to be it's inspiring. It truly is. And like I said, nobody should have to go through what you and your family has had to go through, but you have laid down a very good blueprint, and should anybody have to walk the same path, they don't have to walk it alone. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest on the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learned to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share, or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.